was so heartening to hear Mr. Cohen talk this morning about the importance of the chamber and other institutions being inclusive to all elements of society. And in many ways, this election now is the apotheosis of what began in the 60s. And this election is about embracing what's worth keeping and what's worth leaving behind at this time, because there are so many things that are worth keeping. Barack Obama would not be at the top of the Democratic ticket without the genius and the courage and the vision of Dr. Martin Luther King and all those who followed him in the 1960s. Sarah Palin would not be on the Republican ticket without the courage and the vision and the foresight of women who said it's time for our gender to have equal standing in American life as well across the board. The lesson then, it seems to me, for all of us during this uncertain time, when there seems to be darkness all around us, is to remember that we work best when we stay true to our values, whatever they may be, politically, culturally, economically, or even geographically, but that we always have room for common ground. In Boom, I conclude with a story about Jim Lovell, one of the NASA astronauts. Jim Lovell was raised by a single mother in Milwaukee in a tiny apartment with a Murphy bed. But as a teenager, he had a dream of going to space. First, he wanted to go to the Naval Academy and become a test pilot, and he achieved that dream. He missed on the first cut of NASA astronauts, but he made the second one. And then he was assigned to Apollo 8. There was a rumor that the Russians were going to try to get to the moon before the United States. So NASA was in a hurry in 1968. This was going on when all of this turmoil was happening around us. At Cape Canaveral and in Houston, they were working feverishly to launch a mission to rendezvous with the moon. And 2 days before Christmas of 1968, Jim Lovell described to me with the same boyish enthusiasm that he's always had, standing on the gantry, getting ready to load into the capsule, and looking down the causeway from the mainland out to the Cape where the launches take place, and seeing the headlamps of the press cars, and saying to himself, my God, they're serious. We're going to the moon. He got into that capsule. They launched. They made a rapid orbit of Earth and headed for the moon. And 240,000 miles later, they signaled Houston, we think we're here, but we don't see the moon. And Houston fired 2 small rockets on board, tipped over the capsule, and for the first time, mankind was looking at the backside of the moon, a gray, lifeless surface. And as they drifted slowly by, without uttering a word, Fred Boyer and Frank Borman, the other astronauts, and Jim Lovell rushed to the portholes to watch. And as they emerged from the far side, they saw something in the inky void that no one had prepared them for because no one had ever seen it before. It was this precious planet, this delicate orb suspended in space. The filigree of white clouds, the deep blue of all the seas, the rich green of the rainforest, and the rust brown of the arid areas. And at both poles, the crystalline white of the ice caps. Jim Lovell put up his thumb, and he could hide the entire Earth behind his thumb. And it gave him perspective that he has to this day. As he said to me in Chicago, every night I look at the moon and remember that moment when I saw the Earth and realized this is our spaceship. There are billions of us, but we're all in this together. And when they returned after having, on Christmas Eve, read from Genesis 1 through 10 to a world that was mesmerized by their words, there was a feeling we could get through it again. A feeling that was enhanced, in my judgment, by Stuart Brand, one of the original intellectual hippies, a member of Ken Kesey's Merry Pranksters, the man who gave us the Whole Earth catalog. Many of you will remember that. Fundamental tools for getting through life. But he always had a vision. And when that photograph came back of Earth, Stuart Brand put it on the back cover of the Whole Earth catalog. And he had a simple caption beneath it. And the caption was, "We can't put it together, it is together." And when I interviewed him in Sausalito near his houseboat where he now lives, still in a kind of hippie leather cap, thinking about the future every day, I said, "Stuart, what did you mean by that?" And he said to me, "What I meant was, it's not what divides us that counts, it's what connects us." We have no greater mantra to follow in the coming days of this election and in the months that will follow and the years that will come after January 20th, whoever is elected president, than to remember what unites us, not what divides us. This new president, whether it is John McCain or Barack Obama, will face the most daunting challenge in our lifetime. 2 wars in distant countries that are not going particularly well, especially in Afghanistan. A financial meltdown of historic and epic proportions that we have not yet seen the end of. And most of all, a sense in America that somehow we've lost our compass, that we're not doing the hard work required of us in areas like education and community unification, that we have concentrated too much on just the quick goals of material gain, and that we need to stand back and think anew about who we are and what we represent to the world. So I would hope, as we go through this election, whoever we happen to be wanting to vote for, at the end of it, we'll stay in the arena, that we'll use this election as a time to raise our hands, metaphorically speaking, and re-enlist as citizens, so that 40 years from now, my precocious granddaughter, who now lives in San Francisco, can come to you as the recently retired anchor of NBC Nightly Global News, having just written a new book called "This Too Was the Greatest Generation." Thank you all very much.